So it's another beautiful day out here, and I thought, I should get a little bit of work done. So I jumped back on this Parker intake, and I'm going to show you what we're up to. I got one of my sanding rolls and unraveled it, and we got this piece of paper here, doubled it over, and this is a nice little tool for what I'm doing. This is one way to find imperfections and to blend in areas on any kind of porting surface that you're working on, whether it be an intake or a head. So I do this method on a lot of different stuff, and it's worth my time. Some guys might think it's not their cup of tea, but this is something that I do. So I'm going to show you what we're doing with this. I always call this flat boarding because it reminds me of when you do body work. You take a piece of board and sandpaper and you flat board a surface, and it shows all your imperfections, and it also gives you a straight area as long as you use it flat. If you're going like this here, then that's not going to be too good of an idea because you'll make a low spot. But if you go back and forth and keep it flat, and this is, like I said, this is a stiff piece of paper. And what I mean by that, it doesn't want to bend real easy. So we're just going back and forth, and we're seeing our imperfections. Because if you look at this normally, you think, well, that don't look too bad, but this will show all your low spots and high spots. And I have a lip right here that shows up from me doing this, because what will happen, your high spots will be shiny and your low spots will be dark. So we want to blend this in, and you never want a high spot where air is moving. You always want a nice, consistent, blended in plenum or runner, whatever you're working on. You don't want anything that's going to make the air jump in most cases. Unless you're doing a little trick of the trade with something. Sometimes you do make the air jump, but that's a different video. It's always good to have it go as straight as possible. And we're trying to make it make the most power. And think about this air is coming in, and it has enough restrictions like what to do, where to go. So anything you can do to blend this to make it smooth and straight, then that's going to be a helpful thing as far as getting the air through the runners. So I think you guys can see that high spot right here. Just going to knock that down. I want this even. That's because it's so thick here where I cut it back. That's why that's like that there. Now keep in mind, I'm making a new piece for this, so I want all this stuff cut back and blended in as straight as I can get it. Nothing fancy, it's just a little bit of work. We have to be careful not to cut ourselves because this is pretty sharp there. Getting better. This also lets you feel, you can actually feel through the paper still, even though this is thick, you can feel your low spots and high spots. This is something that will give you a guide for your high spots and low spots, and you can feel if something's out of shape and help you know where you want to do your most work at. Like if you have like a high spot here, then you want to concentrate on that area. I just happened to be something that I felt, and I might as well show you guys why I do this. I'm happy with what I see so far with this intake, as far as the air getting to the end runners here. This was the downfall on this intake, and it's a lot better already. And we're going to be modifying a lot more on this intake in the near future. And part of it is because we have to, basically. I don't like the pitch on the floor. Back here where I cut the floor down some, it's a lot better as far as being equal going out the runners now, but this is still high, has a high crown right there. I don't like it. And if you're wondering about this little nice hole I put in the floor here, that's because the floor is so thin that I went through, and I didn't even do that much work. I was just trying to level it out, and that's a downfall on these intakes, is that they have a very thin floor, evidently. So that's not a good thing. So we're going to modify a floor for this, and I'll be showing that. This little hole reminds me of one of the tricks we used to do back in the day. Guys would hide nitrous, and they would take the nitrous line and run it up underneath the plenum right here. Some guys would actually go underneath and knock this out and go through a lot of trouble to hide the nitrous line and have it spray up inside the plenum here. And that's gotten where that's not a big deal anymore, because most guys, they tell you they have nitrous and they have blowers and superchargers now. But back in the day, guys would cheat. I call it cheating, because if you tell somebody you don't have nitrous and then you're using it, that's cheating to me. That's just how I look at it. Some guys, they just say racing's racing, and if you don't get caught, then you're not cheating. But I think your state of mind tells you, if you feel guilty about something, you have to make excuses for it. Then it tells me that it is cheating. If you feel like you did something wrong and you took some guy's money because he's on 100% naturally aspirated, then you told him that you're naturally aspirated with your engine, and now you're using nitrous on the guy. I mean, that can go however you want to go with it. People have their own opinions, but that's mine. And then again, you might have a guy that cheats himself, and you might be playing his game. So that can go both ways. But this ain't about that. This video is about the intake here. So what we're doing, we're trying to make it where we're getting this as level as we can, because this has a lot of out of shape casting, and especially where I cut it back, it's the metal's very hard, and it's hard to get flattened out. And I could use my carbide bit on this, but what happens is you won't be able to feel what you're doing is good. This gives you an idea how straight you're actually making your plenum and blending things in when you do it by hand like this. See your spots right here. And the high spot here. What will show up when you use a piece of sandpaper, if you have a high spot, the high spot will be shiny, and the low spots will be like a shadow. Like right here, that's a low spot, where this has the casting that goes in, it's imperfection, and this sticks out. And then this sticks out, so that shows you have a low spot. I want to blend that in, to be honest. So as long as you hold this flat, you'll blend that in. But if you were to do this and just dig at it, then you would make this the same shade, and you wouldn't have a clue if you got that out unless you felt it with your finger. So I try to give you guys these little tips that might help you, that help me. I'm going to blend this in here. This is getting all modified, as I've told you. So I just thought I would do a little video and show you guys what I'm up to, and let you take a sneak peek of some of the work I've done since the last time you saw this thing, and just show you some of my ways of doing stuff. Whenever you have air wanting to transfer from one spot to another, you always want that as smooth as you can get it, as far as where the air can move without restriction. And I mean, like having this be higher. Like if this wall right here, which was higher, and I leveled this in to the sidewall here, that air would be coming in and would have tendency, like if this stuck out here, it would have tendency to go back this way instead of going into the runner. And that's what I didn't like about them extended walls that they put on. That's what I talk about in my videos, and I hope I explain that okay, where people know what I'm talking about. And because this had the runners that came out like that. I got that piece of sandpaper and I cut that back, and I want to move these runners back further, and we're going to put that new top on, and that's going to be where it will be more centered for the air to go out to the end runners instead of just going out to these runners in the middle right here. So I think that would help it. In other words, these will be set back further now without this wall helping these four runners here get all the air in the center. So that's my plan for that. And we're just going to keep hammering at this thing until we've done as much as we can do to it. There's a lot more I could do to this if I wanted to get where I wanted to cut it and have it welded back and all that. I'd like to move these runners back and angle them a little bit different, but that's just something I don't think I need to really do for what we're doing. If you wanted a top-notch performance, then that would be worth doing. If you have a combination that calls for a max performance, where you're out there racing for money and all that, then that would always be the best thing to do, is have this be as good as you can make it. But this intake did okay as far as performance, just didn't do good as far as air and fuel metering goes. And here's the thing we want to discuss, talking about the air and the fuel. If these runners are not equal as far as getting air and fuel, this would be a very bad intake to put a nitrous plate on. Because one cylinder would go leaner than the others, and that is something you don't want with nitrous. You don't want it at all, but with nitrous oxide, you surely don't want the any cylinders going lean. And that's one of the problems this intake had. That's why it bothered my son so much. It wasn't just a little bit of loss at bottom end that the engine had. It had a little bit of horsepower loss down low because this intake was big. And all he had was a low compression 302, but he does run nitrous, and that was something that was not a good idea when the way the fuel and air ratio was with this intake. So that was one of the main reasons. You don't win races with blown up motors. So my son said, "Dad, do what you want with that intake," and I told that story a couple times, and here we are. And who knows, maybe I could get this where he could actually use this back in the future. If I could get this where it has a better fuel and air ratio and getting equal, well, more equal than it was before to the runners, that would be a good thing. So we'll be testing that hopefully when this is all back together, and get this on a running engine. We'll be testing that, and that'd be really neat to see this on his car and have it make power where he was having trouble with it before. He was pretty upset about it, so we'll have to see if he would want to try it again in the near future. We surely don't have much out there right now that would call for this intake, because this is going to be for basically a high compression engine, naturally aspirated, or something with a power adder, with a blower or something like that. This would work the best. And turning the engine up in the, I would say at least 7,500 to maybe higher even, just taking a guess. I think this intake would work at a very high RPM and work well once we have it straightened out. So this was surely at a disadvantage on our combination. They compare this to the Victor Jr., but I don't think the Victor Jr. Has quite the loss with torque as this intake did, according to what my son said to me about it. We never compared them, but I've seen the Victor Jr. on similar combinations that our friend has, and I see how them engines ran, and I don't think they lost as much bottom end. And that would be because of the plenum being bigger, and these actually have a pretty big window as far as the runners go. Of course, these are bigger now the way I've cut things back, but we may be modifying this too. I'm undecided about that. I might be moving this wall back even more and then filling the runner in with some epoxy. We're going to debate that. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and overwhelm myself, because I've done that pretty much with this intake since I started on it. Quite a while ago. So anyway, I thought I'd bring you guys along and give you my thoughts and my views and a little visual on this. And I thought we may be able to straighten this floor out without actually having to make a floor for this, but I think now, unless I can level this a little bit more and use epoxy and make it more flat here like I want it, but I just don't want it flat. I want it wider. I want the floor to be wider. That's why I'm thinking about cutting these walls back even more, and I'd like to get the floor about this wide, so at least. So anyway, that's what I'd like to do, but we'll see if that's what I do. I don't know. It's all about time and money, they always say, and I'm not too worried about the time. As long as I can get it done, I don't mind putting the effort in it. I kind of like messing with this when I'm able to, and this is going to be a learning experience to see if I did something to make this better. And so far it seems like it is, but it's not on a running engine. So what I see with the eye here and what the air does going out when I blow through it don't mean it's going to be the same on the engine. However, that method has always worked, like I said, for me. So anyway, we're not going to get carried away, all flustered about it. It's an intake. We're trying to make it better. If it works, it works. If it don't, we'll just take it as that. Because I think once I'm finished with this thing, it's going to be, it is what it is. And I think it will still be better than it was. It may suffer a little bit even more bottom end loss unless I make these runners smaller and maybe do the intake modifications a little bit different, where I close the area up in that too. But I kind of like this big open plenum. If you have an engine that has a good cylinder head on it, that's actually how they're doing these high dollar intakes now. They're actually making them where, if you've noticed, like on MBE or CHI, a lot of them intakes on the Ford style, they kick out more here. And I'm still undecided if I want to cut this back more here and let these two runners share more open volume here instead of being split off as much. So I may cut these back a little bit more, but when I do that, then you're actually giving up more torque. And how much volume do I really need on an engine that's already probably has enough? Anything that we have in sight right now. Now, if I had my bucket list engine that I would love to be able to do, which it would take some high dollar stuff, and it's just something that I think about that I would like to do. But if I could do an engine the way that I want, with good compression, turn the engine up on high RPM, then this intake would work really good, I believe. So we're gonna just take this on the light side of things. I got kind of very serious about this intake before, and I over think things sometimes, but I just get amazed how somebody will design an intake and they have that same wavelength of thinking about the air moving on a slant and going out the runner that way, and do all this work trying to make the air move and it's actually bunching up in the corners and stuff, the way they did this, instead of moving the runner back on an angle closer and taking the bend out of it, and maybe straightening turning the runner up on end more, stand it straight up. But who knows their thought process when they designed this? The guy was a smart guy, and things have changed in the last uh, 10 years dramatically. And think about this: when this intake was designed, that's the thought process that people had back in the day, with the runners coming out with the extended wall on them and all that. And a lot of these intakes that are out now still do all that stuff. But I've noticed that there's more of a problem when they do that, as far as the air kicking back off of another runner, and the air doesn't do what you think it's going to do when they do that. I think the Ford intakes are worse when it comes to that. I think maybe GM, like the Chevrolet and the Mopar intakes, they're more symmetric. I don't think they're as hard to deal with as these runners being on the end, and then they're so spaced out. It's just harder for the air to pull. It has to go further, and then they try to compensate by making one runner smaller and then one runner tilted different, and to me that's a mess. I think there's a better method than that, but it's easy to come behind another guy that's invented something and change it and use your idea when they've already done 80% of the work. So I'll leave that where it's at. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna jump back on this for a bit, and I just wanted to touch base with you and show you what I'm up to, show you where I left off on this, and we'll be discussing this more in the near future. As soon as I get a little bit more caught up on this thing, I'll do a follow-up video, and we'll probably be modifying a new floor for this. That's my thought process right now, but we'll see. I'm still not finished trying to modify the factory floor, so we'll see what kind of problems I run into there, and we'll talk about that in a future video. So thank you for watching, and take care, and God bless everybody.